Hey everyone, Joe here, interrupting your episode of Book Lounge by Libby with just a small favor to ask of you. If you would take a moment for me, I have a survey out there. I would like to know what you think about Book Lounge by Libby. So, in the episode description, there is a link to a survey. If you could take a moment and fill that out for me, I'd be ever so grateful. Whether you're a longtime listener from the Professional Book Nerds days, a new listener, or are just finding out about Book Lounge by Libby now, I want to hear from you. Fill out that survey so I know what you like about the show right now and what you'd love to see in the future. This survey will run until January 5th. So, take some time, fill it out, let me know what you think. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Happy reading. And now, on to the episode. Welcome to Book Lounge by Libby. My name is Joe, and I am so happy you're here. Today, I am joined by some of my absolute favorite people to talk about our favorite reads of 2025. Because what a better way to close out the year than sharing with all of you the things that we probably told you should read that we actually read and loved the most. So joining me today, I have Carmen, I have Kayla, I have Jananie, I have Meara. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Joe.
Hi, Joe. It's so good to be here.
I'm so happy to have you all here. I was saying before I started recording, I'm sorry you had to listen to me do an intro because that's the magic of our recording, that they're usually hidden away. But all the things you're supposed to do, like comment, subscribe, follow, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, do all of that. Or email me, bookloungebyLibby@overdrive.com, if you have suggestions for the future. We're winding down the year. But today, how are all of you? What's new? What's going on? It's festive time.
I'm taking a not very well thought out, but spur of the moment trip to New York City the day after tomorrow with one of my friends. So I'm very excited about that because I get to see like holiday stuff, but it's also going to snow. And as a Floridian, I'm very nervous about slipping and falling on ice. So
I forgot Florida, the power of Florida. I only think of like, oh, right, it's funny when it's like 10 in the morning in the winter and the ice hasn't melted yet and the old people are like, got to stay inside until it thaws. Uh, you are not old, Carmen. Well, pack warmer than you think you need to and maybe buy a pair of boots just for the occasion. It's snowy already here. I'm looking at like the rest of the folks on the call who are with me either just in Canada, because that'll have plenty of snow anyway, and then
Mhm.
Meara, I know you've
Yeah.
got it too, because
Yeah.
it's
And
been snowing here since my birthday.
I look like those old people too. As a Southern transplant in Chicago, I'm like so cautious when I'm walking on the sidewalk. I like tend to leave my house as little as possible because I'm too nervous of slipping and falling.
Yeah. Great.
That's so funny. I never think about it. It's in my system.
But it's great because you know what happens when I'm not going outside because I'm afraid of slipping on the ice?
Mm.
I'm inside reading a book.
Mm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Queen of segues.
Exactly.
I love that. Oh, and yay, Cece can join us. How are you? What's going on? What's new?
I'm good. Sorry it took me a bit to get in here, but
That's a-okay. Well, today we are talking about our favorite books of 2025. I'm gonna get us started just because I am so excited, and like my favorite book of 2025, I'm excited to say, is entirely Kayla's fault. It's When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy.
Oh,
This book, you said it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm sure I'll love it because I trust your recommendations and horror never steers me wrong. But now anytime one of my friends is like, I need a horror book, and I've read all of these and I've read all of these, I just need something different. This is the answer to that because it is weird. It has a concept. It is just like, ugh. I think this quote from Joe Hill says it pretty well. A crazy good balls to the wall horror novel. It's full throttle from the first pages. I agree with that. It's already got like best book and most anticipated horror awards from different pubs. So just go with it. But it follows Jess, a struggling actress who finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. And then after a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. It has so many supernatural elements. It's got that like road trip story, because who doesn't love a road trip narrative? Honestly, if you haven't picked it up yet, I'm going to keep recommending it, but this was probably my favorite read of 2025.
I'm really glad you ended up liking that because I feel like it's a good action-packed horror, but also it's wholesome at the same time. So I feel like it appeals to a lot of different groups at the same time.
Yeah, I think it offers so many different aspects to it. There's just something about it that really makes me go like, if you like any tiny portion of horror in this vein, you will just that bit of it in this book alone will be enough for you to enjoy it thoroughly. I don't know. Everyone who's read it that I've told to read it has followed up with, "Oh, I love that." Okay, I know I should pick a person. Jananie, I'm coming to you. What's your first pick?
Okay, my first pick, I'm gonna go with Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Huang. I keep talking about this book all the time. I'm obsessed. I read an early copy of this and just fell in love with it. I'm also a fan of the author's previous book, Natural Beauty. And when I got my hands on the arc of this, I was like super excited because this is a bit it's still in that literary horror vibe, but it's a bit more of a dystopian, I would say. And gets, I think, more in the literary space. But essentially, it follows this main character who's an artist who goes to this like art school or art college, meets this other character who seems to be a bit of like a prodigy. But the kind of sinister thing going on is that in this world, people are kind of segregated by these things called buffers, which is this technology that has been developed to sort of stop people being envious of each other, stop people from committing crime if they can't see people who are doing worse or better than them, across the buffer, then, they'll just be secluded within their own class of people. And so our main character comes from one of these, who's sort of one of the lower classes, I would say, and then ends up at this art college. And the story kind of like balloons from there, and it actually is spanning many years of their lives. But what I loved the most was not only the commentary on like technology and sort of the harms of technology, and you could even like go as far as talking about like AI and that kind of stuff, but also the sort of really complex and sort of toxic female friendship in this book. I think this author just writes those types of friendships so, so well. And I was just hooked the entire time. Like I wanted to know what awful thing the main character was going to do next, and how she was going to justify it. So,
And who doesn't love an unlikable main character, or that you're just like, "Oh, I hate you and I want to know what you're
yeah,
going to make me sit through."
and it's also like she's the type of character where you're like, I hate you, but you're also the worst parts of me. And why is that compelling? Yeah.
Yes, it's like, I hate you because I hate that part of myself I see in you. It's,
Yes.
oh,
You asking who doesn't like an unlikable main character, I wanted to say like half of Goodreads. Like,
I
like
every time a book is panned on Goodreads, it's like, I couldn't stand the main character. I know. I don't know. There's something about it to me that's just like, yeah, maybe I don't want every character in the book to be unlikable, but
Hmm.
I'm okay with an unlikable main character.
I'm all
yeah, there
about some
has to be
flaws.
something you're rooting for, and that can be their downfall.
That's the thing. Like, it can be so fun if you get to watch a character you hated lose.
But also, and not to be a Libra about it, but also like if someone's unlikable and having like them having some sort of not a redemption arc per se, but like just being able to find their humanity. I think that that's like a part of reading, right? Like we're all like these complex people
Hmm.
who have a myriad of emotions and maybe wrong motivations or do the wrong things. And it's like to be able to come back from that, I think is like something that's deeply human. I don't understand why people want these like one note kind of heroines. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I can never connect, you know?
Yes.
I agree. I feel like no one is perfect in real life. So why would you want a character who is like unflawed?
I mean,
That just seems unrealistic.
some of us are perfect in real life. I had to take it. I had to take it.
And we'll let you have it. We'll let you have it, Meara. That's all for you. Do you want to give us your first book, Meara?
Yeah, I'll give you my first book.
Since
I
you're
actually
perfect.
just finished reading it. And I know Jananie is gonna be so excited. I freaking loved Girl Dinner by Libby Blake. This was like one of my most anticipated reads this year, and then I took my sweet time getting to it, but I, no pun intended, ate it up. Um, if you are unfamiliar with Girl Dinner, it follows two main characters. One of them is a sophomore at a prestigious university who is rushing a sorority. The sorority never has a Greek letter name. It is just capital T, capital H, the house. And this is a very think secret society level kind of prestigious sorority. And our other main character is a new mother who has recently transferred to working at this university because her husband, who is a professor there as well, he just got tenure track and he's like, well, you should come where I am instead of pursuing your own life and tenure at your university. And she gets tapped to be the academic advisor for this sorority, for the house. And so we're watching our two main characters, one finding her way into female situations and relationships through the sorority and the trying to determine what power means to her and how that gets her power versus this adult new mother struggling with balancing all of the expectations of adult womanhood while being amongst all of these very powerful women who came out of the sorority. And she is an anthropologist. And so she is studying them and starting to get a lot of questions. And then we get a couple other side characters, including one who is like a trad wife influencer. And so then we're investigating what is she doing? What is her repercussions on society? Where does her power come from? And all of their lives converge, obviously, through the house, through the sorority, through feminism and questions of it, and politics, and cannibalism, as we all know, is one of my favorite features. So I was in a sorority in college, and I advise a sorority now, and I am flabbergasted at how accurate Libby Blake was with her representations of it. And then I also love cannibalism. So this is just a lot of things that I love. And amazingly, in the afterword, Olivia has this line to her editor where she's like, thank you for pushing me to write this book when I was like, cannibalism is so done. And I tried looking up the editor's email address to be like, thank you for pushing her to do this because cannibalism is not done. We need more of it. And this was such a great way to do it, especially because all the other cannibalism books that I read, the book opens with and they were cannibals. This one, I would have the book being are they cannibals? Where is this going to come in? So I highly recommend putting the book on your list, forgetting about it for 6 months, and then coming in so then you forget that I told you that it was about cannibals, and then you get the same experience that I did of being are they eating people? Because that really was phenomenal. It was a really great moment for me. And that's my whole review. That's my whole review.
And it's the review we needed.
Jananie, anything else you want to say? Yeah.
I was just going to say, I was like, the second I saw it on your list, I was like, oh, thank God that I don't have to add it as my third pick because I loved it. And yeah, retweet on everything you said. But the comment about, not really knowing it's about cannibalism. I think it was in the marketing at some point or when the book was announced, but I completely forgot that. And then when I picked it up and I picked an early copy of it before it came out, I was like, is this speculative or is it not? Am I tripping or am I not? And it was really just nicely woven in. And then when you get the reveal, it's really great. And yeah, so forget about this for 6 months and come back to it and read it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that advice because it's don't worry about the whole list. You need to forget what we just told you about it so you can really marinate in it.
That's one of my favorite things about my really big physical TBR is that it's I buy a book, I get excited about it, I put it down, I forget about it. I know that I'm interested in it because it's on my shelf, so I just pick something up and be like, oh my God, I have no idea where this is going. I have no idea what's going to happen.
I can't wait to see what journey past me got me.
Yeah.
This is the hardest part of my job. Kayla, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just got Girl Dinner from Aardvark, so I'm really looking forward to reading it, but I will put it off a couple months now. So that leaves my brain. My first pick is one that I have an agenda for. It is criminally low, averagely rated on Goodreads, and I need more people to pick it up who are predisposed to like it, because then the book will continue to pick up momentum and get the love that it deserves. That's Julie Chan is Dead. This is a 2025 release by Leanne Zhang. It's said to be a mix of Yellowface and Bunny, which are also two books I absolutely love. We've got this like plenty of commentary on the influencer industry, whether it be racism and pay discrepancy or the attention-seeking culture that social media helps cultivate, breeding insecurity in young women especially. But then not just the themes are great, the plot is very wackadoodle. We have twins who didn't grow up together. One is thriving and one is struggling. The famous one ends up dying and the other steals her identity. It's not with malicious intent, it's more accidental circumstance that she just decides to go along with it and feels like her sister recently exploited her and she might as well get everything that she can out of the situation. So the Bunny reference comes into it, where if you don't know that book, it's like a dark girl cult kind of novel. And Julie in here gets invited to an influencer retreat, thinking that she's her sister. And all the members of that kind of cult situation have a relationship to fame that isn't exactly what she expects. It's very over the top. It's technically billed as a thriller, which is why I think a lot of people picked it up and didn't love it, because you have to really like horror in order to like this. And it's also just like so silly and over the top. And that's definitely my kind of book. So the people who take recommendations from me, this is at the top of the list.
Well, you did it again. I know I'm doomed already.
This is so high on my TBR that I got it on Libby, had it, forgot to get it, they took it back, and now I'm back in line.
I have a copy of that book and I'm like desperate to read it. I've been hearing so many mixed things, but I feel like in this regard, Kayla and I have similar tastes. So I'm excited for this one.
I just think more people should bring back calling plots wackadoodle, because that immediately, like, I was like, I want to read it. And if anyone wants to read it in like a little like 3 or 4 person book club, please come into my coven. Let's have a little group chat on that.
I think that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Happily, yeah. It's so true, Carmen. I think wackadoodle needs to be used more often in descriptions because, right, that's got me sold. I feel like I was talking to Riley Sager once and he said something was banana pants, and that was when I was like, and I'm looped back in.
Bring back all these whimsical words to describe
Whimsy,
things. Like, I want
please.
more whimsy in my life, and it's like using these like words that seem to have fallen out of flavor. Listen to me. Would be like very fun way, I think, to do book reviews.
Well, since I have you, would you like to give us your first pick, Carmen?
Sure. I think it should come as no surprise that Isabel Cañas and the possession of Alba Diaz is one of my top picks of the year. No one writes gothic horror with like yearning romance like Isabel does. And I feel like every book is better than the last. So in this book, we encounter, well, first of all, it begins with a prologue of the end of the book, which I know the internet does not like prologues now, but I am super into them. And this prologue just leaves you hanging, like you know what's going to happen, but like you're breathlessly awaiting the events that lead to the prologue. You meet Alba Diaz, who is a young woman whose parents are very happy that she has become engaged to like her childhood friend whose family is very wealthy, and her family needs like, you know, this kind of financial situation to come in because they're facing some financial straits. And her parents very much are about how they appear in society. Alba is very innocent almost in a way. She's, speaking of unlikable, she's like almost so like brand new and green in this world that she's a little bit annoying in her POVs at the beginning. What ends up happening is that she and her fiance attend a wedding, and at the wedding the bride basically like falls, like has a fit, falls ill and dies the next day. So there is this sickness spreading through town, because then it spreads to the groom and other people, and they get out of there. They go to her fiance's family's home, like in the mountains, and it's in a mining community in Mexico. And I should also add, at the wedding, she has an encounter with a man whose name she does not know, and her fiance just refers to him as the convict. But he has long hair, a ponytail, and a gold earring. So just put a pin in that. And they end up in the mining town, which is very remote, in order to wait out this illness that is going about. And as soon as Alba shows up in that mining town, some weird things start to happen. I'm tapping on the word possession. But like no one seems to know what's going on. And then it gets extremely chaotic. There is also a very good looking priest, but he's kind of revolving around the Spanish Inquisition type of behavior a little bit. And there's a lot of family dynamics, and particularly with Elias, because what ends up happening is that um, Alba becomes possessed going into the mine, and Elias helps talk her out, like, and lead her out of the mine when she's lost, and he sings her out of, like, you can't, like, I was like, oh my God, I'm in love. I'm swooning. Like, I'm like swooning, even though these are some of the most like haunted and demented things that are going on the page. So Isabel has this beautiful way of writing history, romance, discussing and deconstructing colonialism. A lot of the talk with possession has to do with like women's bodily autonomy too. It's mixed into that. And it's so much more than a horror book, which is what I really appreciate about so much horror that is coming out now. It's like, it really dives deep into all of these themes that are both historical, but also like present day. And the writing is lyrical. The characters just pop off the page. And when I tell you, I can't, there's so much I want to say, but I can't because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But like this book had a very, very satisfying ending. And I just highly recommend it. She's one of the most discussed and known Latine writers after only 3 books for a reason. And that's how I will leave it.
It's is a gorgeous book. Also one of my tops from this year. And I don't know, like this year I read Vampires of El Norte and then read Possession of Alba Diaz not too long after. I think my break in between them might have been The Exorcist. And so it's like
Makes a lot of
so
sense.
I had a very odd, and then I think I followed this up with The Bewitching. So it was a very odd year like of reads, or maybe very equally
That
themed.
sounds like a
But this
perfect year of reading to me.
Yeah.
honestly, I've had a perfect reading year, but this book was gorgeous. Lyrical is the absolute best way to describe it. There is something about it that like you just flow and you're pulled in, and it reads like, I don't know, like I'm thinking of how the teachers want us to feel about like the Odyssey is what this actually does. It has that full journey to it that makes you go, "Oh yeah." I mean, from the jump, you're like, possession could just mean her. Like,
Mhm.
and until you actually get to the possession, you may find yourself going like, was this just a little more literal than I thought it was? And I think that was the best part, that for so long I spent just going like, this is a really important conversation, and like she doesn't belong to herself. She belongs to so many other people. And then when the like possession portion actually came around, I was like, this is a nice way to end it off.
Yep, yep. And there's even like layers to the possession too, because it's like it goes a little bit deeper than, oh, she's just possessed. So yeah, anyway.
Exactly.
Delightful
Oh,
and terrifying.
yeah.
I've read her other 2 books and I really like them. Like she's so good with atmospheric gothic like vibes. Like it's so vibey. So I'm really excited for this one.
The mine scene.
Oh, the mine
Yeah.
scene.
I don't know if everyone would agree, but I think this is her most horror feeling one too. So if anyone has read her other stuff, I think this one even adds to some more like actually scary scenes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like it took it more into the step of my horror expectations.
I agree. And I'm very intrigued that her next book is going to be YA, because I'm like, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what she does.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Cece, how about your first pick?
Yeah, I feel like I've just been writing notes about what everybody else is reading, but I do have a book that fits the theme at least. It's a 2025 release, and it is horror that's also about much bigger things. It's Listen to Your Sister by Nina Vale. I think this came out back in like April or something. Um, this is a book about three siblings. There's the eldest, who's her name is Kayla, and she has recently become the legal guardian to her youngest sibling, Jamie. And then they also have their middle sibling, Dre, who was supposed to kind of be helping to raise Jamie, but he disappeared around the time that they signed the papers. So basically, we have a book about an eldest daughter who has been parentified her entire life, but now things are legal. So she's taken over this position, and it has made her kind of exhausted and a little resentful of her brothers. Um, Jamie is this character who's so full of anger, and he has this like raging sense of justice that keeps getting him into trouble. And Dre is just kind of trying to float through it all. But the main thing is that Kala is being haunted by this nightmare that she's had her entire life, where she watches her brothers die in front of her and she's powerless to stop it. So that's like kind of her motivating thing, is that she is constantly terrified that that nightmare is going to become a reality. This book is split into 4 parts, and I would say the first act is really more just about the family dynamics, like turning up the heat on that, the turmoil, what they've all been going through. And then Jamie gets into some trouble at a protest at the same time that both of his siblings are involved in like weird or violent events, and all 3 of them have to flee to a cabin. But when they get to the cabin, that's when things go off the rails, and Kala's nightmare becomes everyone else's problem as well. So this book is about the horrors of parentification and like what the pain and the trauma of what that does to your sibling dynamic. And it's also about how each of these 3 experience the traumas of their lives in distinctly different ways. So like there's a lot of seeing memories from the 3 different perspectives and how it's completely changed all of them. So like I think these 3 have the vibe of like a group of soldiers who fought in the same war together, which is like a dynamic I think a lot of siblings can relate to. And it's a book that made me angry, it made me cry, it made me laugh a lot, because all 3 of them deal with trauma through humor. Um, very relatable again, but I think that this is horror that's going to make you process your trauma. The element of seeing things from multiple angles, like as an eldest daughter myself, I would find myself constantly siding with Kala and feeling her anger and her rage. And then you would hear the other characters and their different perspectives and realize that I was being influenced by, my position in my family just as much as Kala is being influenced. So this is also a book that has like a criminally low average rating on Goodreads. So I too am on a mission. I think it's phenomenal. And I've been saying for months that I cannot believe that this is a debut, because the complexity of the characters and the emotional depth and like how unique all 3 characters are written is just incredible. And I can't say enough good stuff about it. So
This is one that I had to put down and come back to. Like, it was, because I'm such a mood reader, it was not the vibe when I picked it up. But then when I picked it up later, I was so glad that I knew at the time that like, oh, this is a you need to be in the right space for this, because it is so good. And like you said, the fact that this is a debut is incredible. As the youngest in my sibling group, and especially because I have the similar like age gap dynamic. I mean, my siblings are 10 and 12 years older than me. So there were moments where I could just do the like, oh, and they were never parentified. I mean, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, like that kind of thing. So there weren't the expectations set on them, but the ease to which you fall into some of those roles, either with societal expectations or just by the fact of like, well, we're older than you. Yeah, that my appreciation of all the nuances was very different. But it was so fascinating to see what their perspectives could be like.
Okay, as Cece was describing this book, I was thinking about it from my dynamic as a youngest sibling with a 10-year age gap to the closest one. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting because my siblings and I talk all the time about like our different lived experiences in the same moments. And so now you making that direct comparison, I'm like, I gotta read this book. I gotta put it on my list.
It's worth it, and love that common ground. Hey y'all, Joe here, interrupting this episode of Book Lounge by Libby to share something fun coming soon to KANOPY. Now, KANOPY has its very first narrative feature collab coming to the platform. It's titled The Summer Book and will be streaming December 16th. It's based on the beloved Tove Jansson novel, and it's this quiet, reflective, tender story about a grandmother and granddaughter spending a healing summer on a small Finnish island after the death of the granddaughter's mother. The film was shot on location in Finland, so it's full of that peaceful, natural imagery that mirrors the book's meditative tone. It's directed by Charlie McDowell, yes, son of Malcolm McDowell, and stars Glenn Close alongside Emily Matthews. If you're someone who loves literary adaptation, slower paced reflective dramas, or international films, this one's for you. And as a bonus, there will be a new KANOPY Conversations episode with Charlie McDowell releasing December 19th on the KANOPY YouTube channel. So you can watch the film and then hear directly from the director. Oh, and the book itself, The Summer Book, is available right now on Libby. It was first published in 1972 and remains a beautifully crystalline series of summer vignettes about life, death, love, storms, sunlight, all the big stuff, handled with Tove Jansson's signature warmth and whimsy. Highly recommend giving it a borrow if you haven't already. Nothing warms you up in the winter quite like a summertime story, so give that a try on December 16th on KANOPY, and you can read the book anytime in Libby. All right, now back to the show, and again, don't forget to take the Book Lounge survey. This is where I find out that I'm a monster and what I put y'all through every time I say you can only pick like 2 books, because now I'm looking at how I have to pick my second book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh my God. How how do you
Can
deal with
I
me?
can I make a request from your list?
Yes.
I keep picking up Hungerstone and I like look at it and I go, I don't know, and I put it down.
I really want to read that one.
Now, Meara, do you do that after having read it,
No,
or
I'll like see it at a bookstore, I like pick it up, I consider it, and then I'm like, I don't know, and then I put it down. So because it's on your list, I want to know why.
okay, so I'm gonna cheat a little and say 2 at once, which I've learned from all of you. Uh, so there's Hungerstone by Kat Dunn, which I'll talk about, and then there's Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fido. It's short. It's, like, disgusting in all the best ways. It's so good, and it's, like, a perfect Christmas horror because the whole end of the story takes place on and around Christmas. It's one of those, like, if you're a horror reader and you need, like, a quick horror palette cleanse, it's a great one for that. It's weird, it's creepy, it, to me, has the sense of horror books of the past that I don't think people lean into tonally very often anymore, or they get so caught up in a lot of the like historical fiction style trappings that I think Victorian Psycho just does weird really well. And it's again, it's like quick. It's a quick read. And I think it made it in this like chaotic list I have because I keep thinking about it. Because it like keeps popping up into my head, like, oh, what a good cover and what a weird story. But Hungerstone, this to me a lot of my books all have very similar through lines, and I think Hungerstone matches very well to like the possession of Albedias with the kind of like longing elements. To me, this is a book. This is very clearly a horror. It's got those thriller elements, but it's also just about like longing. And I mean, like, again, vampire lesbians is like the easiest way to put it. And need I say more? But it's a compulsive feminist reworking of Carmilla, the queer novella that inspired Dracula. So I don't think I need to say more than that. But like, it's just really cool. It's in the height of the Industrial Revolution. And 10 years into Lenore's marriage to steel magnate Henry, their relationship has soured. Henry's ambitions take them from London to the remote British moorlands to host a hunting party. A shocking carriage accident brings the mysterious Carmilla into their lives. Carmilla is weak and pale during the day, but vibrant at night. Carmilla, who stirs up something deep within Lenore, and before long, girls from the local villages fall sick, consumed by a terrible hunger. So as the day of the hunt draws closer, Lenore begins to unravel, questioning the role she has been playing all of these years. Torn between regaining her husband's affection and the cravings Carmilla has awakened, soon Lenore will uncover a darkness in her household that will place her at a terrible risk. I don't know, it's just like hot, gothic, and sexy. I don't know. This is another one of those that like I don't know why it was one of my top reads, but all the vibes were checked and my brain like every time I see the cover of it, I go, yeah, that was great. And that to me is what made me go, this even when you were saying it, Meara, I was like, well, this is kind of the book I was gonna pick as my second choice, my second one anyway. So yeah.
How I have to, okay. I feel like we're now playing a game show of like, convince me
Please.
on this book. Um, how is the pacing? Because like if I look at it, it is compared to The Lamb, which I actually loved, and Blood on
Mhm.
Her Tongue, which I didn't love. And so I'm like,
Hmm.
I feel like the pacing is one of those things that makes me look at it. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't think I read Blood on Her Tongue, so I can't compare it to that. But pacing wise, you know me, I'm almost exclusive audiobooks when I'm doing my reading. This one I feel like I enjoyed in multiple sittings, where like Victorian Psycho was like, you know, a night and a half kind of you know, like I had two different chunks of time to listen to, it was over. Where Hungerstone, I probably listened to like a couple sessions throughout a week. I don't think the pacing is slow, but I do think it is slower than you may be looking for.
Okay.
I don't know.
So, and I can do that. I just need, in those scenarios, I'm like, I need an audiobook.
Oh
Mm.
yeah. I think if I tried to read this one, I probably wouldn't get as invested as I did with the audiobook. Because the
Okay.
audiobook, you just immediately sink into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, now I have to remember the order I came up with before. Jananie, it's
Damn.
you.
I was hoping you'd forget.
Maybe.
Okay, so my second pick is a bit of a vibe change, I feel like, but it's also semi self promo, so bear with me for a sec. But this is the book that came out from my publishing imprint for Binder Books, which is Boundless Press. Came out on September 30th, and it is Dust Settles North by Dina El Janaidi. I had the incredible honor of reading this book, actually, I think like over a year ago, and then I've been rereading it and like annotating it and just like getting back into it with my book club in November. But yeah, the book came out September 30th, and it's been a wonderful journey of like bringing it to publication. But it's also just like an incredible story. And I was like thinking about, what I wanted to recommend today, and I was like, I don't want to be self promo-y, but also like if I had read this book just myself this year, this would have been the book I like would have picked to talk about because it was one of those books that when I read it, even like first and second time, I connected to it so much in a way that I didn't expect. And it also clarified so many of my experiences as a child of immigrants or refugees, and just this feeling of like growing up with religious guilt of, feeling like you're not quite an adult, even as an adult, and trying to figure yourself out. And then also just dealing with like the different expectations that your parents and people around you have for you and how, you want to live up to those things, but sometimes, you're just figuring things out. But basically, Dust Settles North follows our two main characters, Hannah and Zane, who are siblings. They're Egyptian American. And this is set during the Arab Spring and specifically post revolution 2012 Egypt. And well, partially in Egypt. So the two main characters travel to Egypt for their mother's funeral. She's recently passed away. And after the funeral, Hannah decides to stay in Egypt and give up her spot at Columbia Law. Um, Kind of in a spur of the moment decision because she's just like, I don't even want to go to law school. Like, that was something that my mom wanted. Like, what do I even want out of my life? And then Zane returns home. He's in Philadelphia and he works in journalism. And he's kind of the character who's a little messy, makes a lot of mistakes, and he, you know, has a lot of growing up to do as a man, as a boy who has been sort of coddled in some senses by, society. And he just needs to come to terms with like what he wants his impact to be on the world and how he can sort of escape some of the patterns that maybe his father has, had. And overall, I think it just ended up being this really beautiful story of, again, like just figuring yourself out, but it also has like this really beautiful sort of political through line and sort of this look at Egypt and America and sort of decentering our Western view of the rest of the world. And I really, really appreciate that throughout. So yeah, it's a book that's like sad, but also chaotic, but also like gonna warm your heart in so many ways. And I think it was just amazing for that reason.
It sounds gorgeous. If I may ask, what was your experience like in the process of bringing this to print?
It was really interesting and it was a lot of fun. I mean, so as part of the process, like I get to read submissions from agents and authors, and choose one to publish. And I remember this was one of the submissions where I started reading the first page and I immediately like knew like this is the one. And I remember it was like this very innocuous scene where Hannah's just like, trying to go back to her apartment in New York. She's like going to be moving or something. She's figuring out her move for Columbia and she's on the phone with her mom and she's kind of being short with her mom because she's nagging her and whatever. And the scene ends with, and that was the last time she spoke to her mother. And I remember being like shattered. And I was like, I need to know. I need to keep reading. And it's very rare that like I'm that hooked from the first page, like the first scene. So that was what it was with this book. And then yeah, it was like a really, you know, incredible and interesting process of like seeing it go through the editorial process with like the formal editors that Bindery works with. And then, getting to be part of like the cover design process and, working on the marketing and the box mailers that we did. And then I went to New York for the book launch and everything. And it was just so wonderful, like getting to be there and just like support Dina and be there for her moment. So yeah, it's been incredible. And I just want more people to pick it up.
I got one of the boxes for this, and it was
Yay.
so cutely done. Look at this camel that was in it, and this camel sits on my bookshelf, and I look at it every day.
So the funny thing about that camel is that it's actually from Egypt. Dina's dad got like 50 of those little camels in Egypt and shipped them to the bindery team so that we could put them in the box.
I will
Yeah.
weep. That's so sweet.
That's
Yeah.
so cute. Oh, I love that. I love hearing about that. And now I'm thinking of future episodes where I'm like, well, Jananie, I'm going to need you to come in and talk about something, but
Absolutely.
that's for something in season 3. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's
Thank you.
always exciting to hear about the process. I find it so interesting and everything about kind of like the layouts all the way through the designs and the different iterations books go through. But Meara, I think you're next.
I am next. My book is much less heartwarming, but it does move in the direction of confronting Western stereotypes. And it is Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang by Kylie Lee Baker. I listened to the audiobook of this, and on my TikTok, there's a video of me recording myself listening to the first chapter because the first chapter ends in the most disgusting, gut-wrenching, horrifying, sudden, you feel like you've been hit by a train in the way that chapter ends. And so it is about Cora, who is a Chinese American girl living in New York City in 2020. That's where it starts. It's like early COVID, they're like scrambling for toilet paper days. And she is on a subway platform with her sister, and a man runs up and pushes her sister in front of an approaching subway car and yells "Bat Eater" at her. And then her head is cut off. That is how the book starts. And then we jump a little bit, and Cora is a crime scene cleaner. And there is a serial killer that is attacking Chinese American women. And there are bats showing up at all of the crime scenes. And there is a festival happening. So her aunt tells her. So Cora kind of battles with ignoring her cultural backgrounds and just trying to focus on Americanization and just assimilation. And her aunt is like, no, you need to pay attention to your Chinese ancestry. You should be preparing for the Hungry Ghost Festival. Cora says no. And Cora learns why she should be preparing for the Hungry Ghost Festival as she then starts being haunted by what could be her sister. And it is just you never know what's real and what's made up, and she is trying to figure out how she gets rid of this ghost and what to do about this serial killer and how she and her friends can be safe while dealing with racism during COVID. It is a stomach turning, dark humor, very fast horror novel that I don't know about y'all. I actually really enjoy reading media that recognizes that COVID happened. I hate when things kind of like skip it over and ignore it. I'm like, that is a very real part of our lives. And it looks it in the face. Um, I listened to it so fast. It was so good. Oh, I should also mention that Cora like has like contamination OCD. There's a lot of irony that this girl is a crime scene investigator and has contamination OCD. That makes a lot of funny moments. But then she like turn around and there's like a ghost trying to eat her. So highly recommend. It was great.
If anyone wants to know what my 10 before the end is, just see the list from this episode. Like,
That one is properly grotesque, and people should go into it knowing that like there's animal stuff and like the bats play a big part in the disgusting thing.
Oh my
It's
God,
it's
I want to
great.
read it so bad now.
I read cannibalism nonstop, and this is the grossest book I've read this year.
oh, wow. And I mean, since the like quotes on it are from Paul Tremblay and Grady Hendrix, it doesn't surprise me to hear Kayla to have you say like, yeah, no, it's gross. But wow. Ooh, well, speaking of Kayla, I believe it's you now.
Okay,
I
yeah.
almost picked your book, so I'm really excited for you to do it. I just want
Oh,
to say.
really?
Uh-huh.
It's so funny because I feel like I thought this book was so much more divisive than it actually is because it's in the Goodreads Choice Awards, and I never saw that coming. This is a general fiction book, but it has a futuristic setting. It doesn't really feel traditionally sci-fi, though that is the category it was placed in the Goodreads Choice Awards. It is The Compound by Aisling Rawle. It is a reality show competition book, yet neither the reality show nor the competition element are likely exactly what you're expecting, which is why I thought it'd be a hit or miss for people. We never see the host of the show. There's no crew. It's just a house under surveillance. And the 20 contestants who arrived there desiring shelter and food and prizes in this near future where climate change has continued to heat up the earth so much so that it's dangerous to be outside for a long period of time. And there are these permanent wildfires burning nearby. We focus in on this show, but we never meet the viewers. We just follow a pretty mundane existence as the competitors get to know each other under the close watch of this disembodied voice, which tells them like how much they're allowed to communicate to each other, how much of their backstory they're allowed to reveal and when. And it gives them individual or group challenges that range from like share a secret with a stranger to everyone has to go in the pool and hold their breath for 2 minutes, or you don't get food today, or sunscreen. It builds in suspense and the stakes, and they start to have problems naturally with each other. They can't trust each other. They get to start exiling one another. At the same time, it never quite gets as wild as you might expect. But there's a lot to think about regarding the human condition and the medium of entertainment TV. But there's also like a fun love triangle, and there's plenty of characters to hate, and there's some comedic relief with one person in particular. It was just my perfect kind of book. I had so much fun reading it, and it was like a one sitting kind of experience because I just had to know. And in the same way that reality shows like end each episode with someone getting kicked off, this one, like each chapter kind of ends with losing someone. And so you want to pick up the next chapter to see how that changes the dynamic. It's so engaging and I love it so much, but it has a pretty low average rating considering it being in the Goodreads Choice Awards. So I want this one to find its audience too.
I like have never felt so passionately that people who don't like this book are wrong. Like, I'm like, everyone has their thing. No, people who don't like this book are wrong. I read it in 24 hours. I read it so fast. And I was having such withdrawals from this book that I started watching Love Island.
Wait, so I had the exact same experience, and I've never seen Love Island. And as soon as I read it, I was like, okay, I need to watch some dating reality shows. I hated all of them. but I had to scratch that itch elsewhere. This is another book that's full of, especially our main character that we talked about before, is really unlikable. So that might be contributing to people not loving it. She's just very materialistic. Like she's just there for the prizes and she's not really ambitious. She's just kind of letting things happen to her. But that's a character that I love.
But that's like, okay, I've seen people complain about that. They're like, the main character is boring. I don't like her. But that's the whole point is that she's been conditioned her whole life to be like, you're pretty. You don't need to be that smart. Like she just
Mhm.
gets by on life. And that is like her whole characterization is like, yeah, if you think that she's boring and just gets by, that's because that's who she thinks she is. And then like through the book, she's like actually taking action and like doing things and like building relationships and like make stuff happen. She just doesn't think she is who you don't think she is if you aren't like thinking about it.
Mhm. I also think like this is the foil to girl dinner where don't pick it up right now. You need to know, you need to not know what's going to happen in it. Where this one, it's like, go into it knowing that it's unlikable reality TV.
Yeah.
Don't forget it and like absorb it right now. And you'll enjoy it more than the people who probably just picked it up because it was a whatever pick or, like came across them one way or another. So I think this is one where it is helpful to know that, yeah, the people kind of suck. And that's the whole point.
The whole
Who
point.
who doesn't suck in reality TV?
Like read it in January when you're like, I need my reality TV craving fix. Like read this book. Kayla, I was so jealous when I saw that you put it on here.
Oh, I love it. Carmen.
So I'm so glad I'm going after Kayla because she talked about climate change a little bit in this novel that she recommended. And in everyone's vendetta to try to get more Goodreads reviews or better reviews of books, the book I'm going to recommend as my second one only has 44 readings on Goodreads. And the author, you may know her. She penned the initial critique of American Dirt. Her name is Miriam Gorba. And this is her latest novel called Poppy State. The subtitle of the book is A Labyrinth of Plants and a Story of Beginnings. This book combines the botanical with the personal. This has been my year of narrative nonfiction. Like I think I'm gonna only recommend like Latin A books and nonfiction books moving forward. Like I feel like I've just been transformed by nonfiction in a lot of ways. And Miriam in particular has this voice where she discusses like her father's love of gardening while talking about the gold rush in California and the devastating effects of it, while also talking about some of her personal traumas. And she does it all with I don't know, a pen or a knife. Like, in my opinion, it's like a knife. Like, she cuts to the chase. She slices and dices everything. She's like very no nonsense, but she also has this like biting sense of humor and wit that is just so human. At the beginning of the book, she has trigger warnings, but even before the trigger warnings, she's like, "You only get to read a book once, so decide how you want to read this book, and you can go on and read the trigger warnings, or you can go without them." She's very like self-aware of what she's bringing to the table, and I personally think she's one of the best nonfiction writers out there and deserves so much more credit. I feel like everyone's very one note because she did write a very famous essay that unleashed a lot, but that is the power of her writing. This is her fourth or fifth, and each one of them is so different, but she's just really developed into this incredible author. Like, I admire her tremendously, and this book really spoke to me in so many ways. And I love people who can lay their humanity bare and like be so vulnerable with their audience, and yet at the same time, I don't know, just show the strength and not be sorry for anything. I absolutely love this book. I started gardening this year. I know I say that every episode. And so this is another one. Like, the first story is about how she found out that you couldn't pick poppies because it was like against the law. And she's like, am I going to be arrested because she had poppies in her hand when her dad told her. And so it's I don't know. It's mythical and magical and just a really, really beautiful book. And it definitely deserves more than 44 ratings on Goodreads. I'll tell you that.
I I
You've
am
I don't think
convinced me.
so
I'm picking it up. Was like adding it in the background.
yeah. I read Miriam's memoir a few years ago, Mean, and that one of my favorite things about it was the way that she mixes her own experiences with she combines her memoir with true crime and a story about a murdered girl, and it is she's a phenomenal author. I definitely also am going to read this as soon as possible.
Yay. Yay.
I'm like super convinced. Because I don't read much by way of nonfiction. I'm sure I've said it 1,000 times on here, but like my nonfiction is typically celebrity memoirs. So what I don't know what that says about me, but it's Tori Spelling's fault. It started in high school, whatever. Uh, I'm sure many a person has said it's Tori Spelling's fault, but this to me is so beautiful. The idea of narrative nonfiction, and especially since like everything has from her, it sounds like such an interesting twist. Like like combining her memoir with a true crime narrative, talking about how her father's garden also parallels to the California gold rush. Like that to me, I'm sold, and I guess I'll be doing some nonfiction.
Well, and also she narrates this audiobook. So if you want to do it on audio, you can hear Miriam.
Ooh, what a treat. I really wasn't kidding. My 10 before the end is just going to be this episode. I'd hit the point where I was like, I think I've gotten through all the books that I like was really jazzed about for this year, and we're gonna end on a fizzle. And now I'm like, I'm renewed, I'm reinvigorated. I'm so ready. Okay, Cece, your final pick.
Yes, I can do that. Well, I feel like mine's slightly different from everybody else's, but I really still wanted to be able to bring a queer YA contemporary because that is like so much of my history reading, but also what I talk about online. So I want to talk about the Luis Ortega Survival Club. This is a queer YA contemporary by Sonora Reyes, and it is definitely heavier in topic, but this is one of those books that I want to be av- as available as possible to so many teens, to so many readers in general, because I think that it could have such a huge impact on them. So this book it's about rape culture, and particularly about how those who commit acts of sexual violence isolate and manipulate their victims, and how revolutionary it can be to create a community from those who have been isolated. So this is about a teenager named Ariana. She is autistic and she's selectively mute, which for her means that she really only feels comfortable and able to speak when she's at home. And at the beginning of this book, she's just left a party where she had sex for the first time, and she doesn't know how to feel about it because she never said no, but she also never said yes. And she's left floundering with what that means for her, and she is completely isolated in terms of being able to deal with it. So she's eventually kind of invited to join this group, the Luis Ortega Survival Club, and it's made up of other students who are hoping to get revenge on Luis or expose who he is to the rest of the school. They're all people who've been impacted by Luis in some way, but the meetings, while they are initially about that, they become more emotional discussions as these students become friends and kind of create an emotional support system for one another. So, uh, something that I think is so important about this book is that neurodivergent people, autistic people in particular, face significantly higher rates of sexual violence as compared to their allistic peers. So I think that this book does a really incredible job of highlighting some of the reasons for those numbers while also shining a light on rape culture in general and how it impacts everybody in completely different ways. Uh, I don't know that I've ever cried harder reading a book. because I have so much love for Ari, and I feel how alone she is. And something that really stands out to me is that there is so much love and care shown to Ari throughout by her new friends. They love her and they listen to her and they accommodate her without question and without being asked. One of the things that still gets me emotional about this book when I think about it is that at a certain point in the book, there was always someone making sure that there was a notebook and something to write with for Ari in any given circumstance so that she could still be part of the conversation. And it was just like, she had never had that experience before, but that minor act of love, of acceptance and understanding is such a huge part of why she's able to heal, why she's able to process what has happened to her. And I think that's really special. I think this book is also great because it has there's a whole subplot about how important queer lit has been to Ari and her self-acceptance. There's a lot discussed about the validity of self-diagnosis when it comes to autism and how prevalent that is in the autistic community. So I just think that this book needs to be in a lot of classrooms and libraries and in teens' hands because it is heavy, but it really, really tells such an important story about characters that I'm going to be thinking about for like ever.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, thank you for bringing that. That sounds so important. I mean, again, it's like books give us the chance to think about things that we may not just naturally thinking about, making sure that there is always a way for everyone in the group to communicate, like making sure that there is, like just the thought of like a notepad always being around and a pen or a pencil, like something to write with, like that alone. Yeah, I haven't read it yet. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I know I'll be crying with this one, but I can't wait to read it.
You know those videos on TikTok of like the pressure thing, like breaking like bowling balls and stuff? Like as you continue to tell this story, like I just felt that thing like pressing on my chest. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be one of those like snot falling down your face, like sitting in bed at 1 a.m. because you have to keep going kind of books.
Yeah, the hydraulic press is getting you for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, everyone. Any thoughts for our friends at home before we go? Anything you want to shout out or talk about or mention
I'm
or
just glad we went from wackadoodle to sentimental. And I think that for the viewers, like that can sometimes maybe we put ourselves in a box when it comes to reading. You find one
Mhm.
thing you like and you just stick with it. But just like here, we had so many different ranges. Like you can find a range in your own reading too. And just because you haven't liked a certain genre in the past doesn't mean you shouldn't give it a go again and find your own range from wackadoodle to sentimental.
That.
Kayla, I
Love
love
that.
that. Absolutely. That is the message.
Mhm.
It's that whole we all contain multitudes thing. You never know what it's going to be.
You never know.
Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. And thank you all for watching and listening, however you enjoyed the show. Of course, remember, like, comment, subscribe, follow, 5 stars, blah, blah, blah. This is the second to last episode of the year. So make sure you tune in next week for our January book picks episode. And then we'll be taking a lovely little break for the winter holidays. Thank you all so much for joining me today. And as always, happy reading. You can sample and borrow the books from today's episode in the Libby app, or if you're a librarian, find them for purchase in Overdrive Marketplace. Book Lounge by Libby is a proud Evergreen Podcast signature program. Explore more amazing shows at evergreenpodcasts.com. This podcast is produced and recorded by me, Joe Skelly, with editing by Andrew Alonzo. Our theme music is High Five by Rex Banner, used with permission. Book Lounge by Libby is presented by the Libby app. Learn more at libbylife.com/booklounge.